Shockwaves began spreading across the Middle East when reports suddenly emerged that Israel had carried out a powerful strike deep inside Iran, targeting what intelligence sources describe as a highly secretive missile facility believed to be linked to Iran's expanding long-range weapons program. Early reports suggested the attack was not a routine military operation. According to regional defense analysts, the target may have been one of Iran's most sensitive missile infrastructure sites, a location believed to house advanced missile systems capable of reaching targets thousands of kilometers away. Within minutes, international media networks began broadcasting breaking headlines. Satellite monitoring groups reported unusual activity in central Iran shortly before the explosions were detected, while several regional intelligence accounts claim the strike may have involved precision air-launched weapons designed specifically to penetrate fortified underground facilities. Iranian state media quickly acknowledged that explosions had occurred near what officials described as a military zone, though authorities initially avoided confirming whether a missile facility had been directly hit. At the same time, several regional security analysts suggested the location may have been connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the powerful military organization responsible for overseeing much of Iran's missile program. What happened next stunned military analysts. Reports began circulating that the targeted site was not just another weapons depot. Instead, it may have been a critical component of Iran's long-term missile development strategy, potentially linked to projects involving precision-guided ballistic missiles designed to evade modern air defense systems. But the real story may be even more complicated, because if the claims about the target are accurate, the strike would represent one of the most significant covert attacks on Iran's missile infrastructure in years. Before we go deeper into how this strike reportedly unfolded, what intelligence sources are saying about the facility that was hit, and how Iran is now responding to the attack, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest updates on the most dramatic geopolitical developments happening around the world. According to early reports from regional defense observers, the operation may have involved long-range precision weapons launched from outside Iranian airspace. Several analysts believe advanced standoff missiles could have been used, allowing attacking aircraft to remain far from Iranian air defenses. This approach would align with tactics frequently attributed to the Israeli Air Force, which has developed sophisticated methods for striking heavily defended targets while minimizing exposure to enemy radar systems. Within minutes of the explosions, social media videos began appearing online, showing flashes of light in the night sky, followed by distant shockwaves. While the authenticity of some of these clips remains difficult to verify, multiple independent monitoring groups confirm that seismic sensors in the region recorded several powerful detonations. Some analysts believe these blasts may indicate that the facility contains stored missile fuel or ammunition, which could amplify the size of the explosions once the initial strike occurred. If that interpretation is correct, the implications could be enormous. Iran has spent decades investing billions of dollars into its missile program, viewing long-range missile capability as a key element of national defense and deterrence. Many of these weapons are believed to be capable of reaching strategic targets across the Middle East and potentially beyond. Because of this, suspected missile development facilities inside Iran are often protected by layers of security, including underground bunkers designed to withstand air attacks. That raises a critical question now being asked by military experts across the world. How did the attacking force manage to hit such a sensitive target? One possibility is that intelligence agencies had been monitoring the site for months, gathering detailed information about its layout, defenses, and operational activity. Precision strikes against heavily protected facilities typically require extensive reconnaissance, satellite surveillance, and sometimes even cyber operations designed to disrupt defensive systems. Another possibility involves the use of specialized bunker-penetrating weapons capable of striking deep underground structures. If such weapons were used during this operation, it would suggest that the attackers intended not just to damage the facility, but potentially to destroy critical components of the missile program itself. Within minutes, the situation escalated dramatically. Iranian security forces reportedly sealed off roads around the affected area, while emergency crews rushed toward the site. Local authorities imposed communication restrictions in nearby districts, a move often taken when sensitive military infrastructure is involved. But while Iran was moving quickly to control the situation on the ground, international intelligence analysts were already trying to understand what this strike might mean for the wider geopolitical landscape. Because this was not just another isolated military incident. If the facility that was hit truly played a role in Iran's missile development network, the strike could represent a direct attempt to slow or disrupt one of the country's most strategically important military programs. And that possibility raises an even larger question, now dominating discussions among defense experts. Was this operation intended as a warning, or as the opening move in a much larger escalation between Israel and Iran? For several hours after the first explosions were reported, uncertainty dominated the global conversation. Governments, intelligence agencies, and military analysts across multiple continents began examining satellite imagery and early intelligence signals to determine exactly what had happened. But as more information slowly began to emerge, the narrative surrounding the strike started to become far more complex. Because while some reports suggested that a major missile facility had been severely damaged, officials inside Iran were already pushing back against those claims. And their version of events tells a very different story. Iranian officials soon began presenting their own version of events. According to statements released by military representatives connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the explosions reported near the suspected facility did occur, but authorities insisted that the damage was far less severe than some early reports suggested. State television in Iran described the incident as a limited security breach, claiming that defensive systems had detected and responded to incoming threats. Officials emphasized that key military infrastructure remained operational and that the country's missile capabilities had not been significantly affected. This statement immediately created a sharp contrast with the claims circulating among regional intelligence sources. Some analysts were suggesting that the targeted facility may have housed advanced missile components or research equipment linked to Iran's growing arsenal of precision-guided weapons. If those reports were accurate, even partial damage to such a location could slow critical development programs. But the real story may be even more complicated. Military analysts often point out that during high-stakes confrontations between rival states, information becomes one of the most powerful strategic tools. Governments frequently release carefully crafted narratives designed to shape public perception while protecting sensitive military details. That appears to be happening here as well. While Iranian officials were minimizing the impact of the strike, security experts in several Western countries began examining satellite imagery that appeared to show visible damage in the area surrounding the suspected installation. Some images suggested that several structures within the complex may have been hit, though analysts cautioned that it was still too early to determine exactly what facilities were affected. Meanwhile, officials in Israel remained largely silent about the reports. This approach is consistent with Israel's long-standing policy regarding sensitive military operations. Israeli authorities rarely confirm or deny specific strikes related to regional security matters, particularly those involving Iranian military infrastructure. Instead, officials often rely on strategic ambiguity. This policy allows decision-makers to avoid escalating tensions publicly while still sending a message to potential adversaries. And if this strike was indeed carried out by Israel, the message may have been aimed directly at Iran's missile program. For years, Israeli security leaders have warned that Iran's growing arsenal of long-range missiles represents a major threat to regional stability. Many of these weapons are believed to be capable of reaching Israeli territory, and some analysts believe Tehran has been working to improve their accuracy and range. Because of this, suspected missile development sites inside Iran have long been viewed by Israeli planners as potential strategic targets. Within minutes of the reports emerging, governments across the Middle East began monitoring the situation closely. Officials in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and other regional powers increased security alerts around key infrastructure as a precaution against possible retaliation. The reason is simple. History has shown that confrontations between Israel and Iran rarely remain isolated events. Instead, they often unfold as part of a broader shadow conflict stretching across multiple countries, involving cyber operations, covert strikes, and indirect confrontations through regional allies. That is why the events surrounding this latest strike are drawing such intense attention from military planners worldwide. Because if Iran concludes that a critical component of its missile infrastructure was deliberately targeted, pressure could quickly build inside the country for a response. And that possibility introduces a dangerous new layer of uncertainty. Military strategists often warn that escalation cycles can begin in unpredictable ways. One side carries out a limited strike designed to send a warning, but the other side interprets it as a major provocation requiring retaliation. Once that cycle begins, controlling the pace of events becomes far more difficult. Some experts believe both Israel and Iran understand these risks extremely well. For that reason, it is possible that both governments may attempt to contain the situation using carefully calibrated messaging rather than immediate military escalation. But even if that happens, the strategic implications of the strike could still be enormous. The incident highlights the growing importance of missile warfare in modern geopolitics. Over the past 2 decades, countries like Iran have invested heavily in missile technology as a way to project power across long distances without relying on traditional air forces. Ballistic and cruise missiles can travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers, making them one of the most effective tools for deterrence and strategic influence. At the same time, countries like Israel have developed sophisticated intelligence and strike capabilities designed specifically to counter those threats before they become operational. This evolving technological competition has quietly reshaped military strategy across the Middle East. Facilities connected to missile development are now among the most heavily protected sites in the region, often hidden deep underground or spread across multiple locations to reduce vulnerability. Yet despite these precautions, events like this strike demonstrate that even highly secretive installations may still be exposed to precision attacks, and that reality is likely to trigger intense analysis among defense planners on all sides. For Iranian military leaders, the priority now will be understanding exactly how the strike occurred. Investigators will examine radar data, air defense logs, and surveillance systems to determine whether the attackers exploited a weakness in the country's defensive network. For Israeli strategists, the operation, if confirmed, may provide valuable intelligence about how Iranian defenses respond under real-world conditions. In modern warfare, information gathered during a single strike can influence planning for years. Meanwhile, the international community is watching closely. Diplomatic pressure may soon begin building behind the scenes as global powers attempt to prevent further escalation. A direct confrontation between Israel and Iran would carry enormous consequences not only for the Middle East, but also for global energy markets and international security. For now, however, many details surrounding the strike remain uncertain. Iran continues to insist that the damage was limited. Independent analysts are still studying satellite imagery and intelligence reports, and Israeli officials have not publicly commented on the operation. Between these competing narratives lies a complex reality that the world is still trying to understand. What is clear is that the reported strike on a suspected missile facility has once again pushed tensions between Israel and Iran into the global spotlight. Whether this incident remains a single dramatic episode or becomes the beginning of a wider escalation remains impossible to predict. As more information emerges in the coming days, analysts and governments around the world will continue examining the evidence to determine exactly what happened during the mysterious strike that shook one of the most sensitive military networks in the Middle East. For now, the region remains on alert. Military forces are watching carefully. Intelligence agencies are analyzing every signal, and the story of the alleged strike on Iran's secret missile base is still unfolding. The next move could determine whether this moment becomes a brief flash in already tense rivalry, or the opening chapter of a far more dangerous confrontation.